Hello and welcome to part 3 of the series on how to create the Discord UI with ReactJS. In the last part we finished off with creating the grid right here. In this part we are going to continue working on the grid and we are going to make it responsive. We are going to open up our source folder and inside of here we are going to open up our home.tsx, and right here we are going to create two more rows. We are going to create a top left and a top right row. And we are also going to rename the top row to the top main row. So we have for the top row three different rows. We have a top left, main and right, because in the Discord UI right here we have a main, a right section and a left section, which is all part of the top section right here. Same goes for the main and the bottom section. So right here we have our main row. We also have a main left and a main right row, and for the bottom row as well we have a bottom left and a bottom right row, like so. Let's save it up, and as you can see right here we have all our rows appearing on the screen. Next up, we actually want to use the grid that we have created in our CSS file right here. So here we have created grid template areas. As you can see we have a navbar, unclaimed, top left, top main, top right, main left, main, main right, bottom left, bottom main, bottom right. We now want to create classes for our div elements so we can assign grid area to the element. But first we are going to make the navigation a nav element, like so. Now that we have added classes to all our elements, we want to assign the grid area to the correct class. So we start with the navigation bar. We target it by saying nav, since it's a nav element. And right here we can say grid area navbar, like so. We are going to do the same for the rest of the elements. We have added a grid area to every class. If we open up our app right here and refresh the page, you see that we have all the elements appearing in the correct position. But what we also see is that they don't have the same width and the same height as the original page right here. To fix this, we can use the arrow tool right here and we can inspect the element, and as you can see when we hover over the navbar, we have a width of 72 pixels. We can go into our home.css and we can write grid template rows, and right here we can define the width of each row, or actually the width of each column. We are going to start with the columns. First column will have a width of 72 pixels. Second column will be 240 pixels. Third column is actually a special column. This column will be responsive, so it will have a width of outer, like so. The last column will have a width of 360 pixels. Let's save it up and see how this looks. We now have the correct width for every column. We want to do the same for the height. We are going to use the arrow tool right here again, and we are going to hover over the unclaimed account section, and we see that it has a height of 36 pixels. We're going to write grid template rows, 36 pixels. Right here it will be 48 pixels. This will be auto, and then right here we will have a height of, let's see, 52 pixels. Let's save it up. Let's go out of this menu, open up our page, and we see that we now have the same sizes as on the Discord page. Next up, we want to also use the same colors. We are going to use the color picker right here. We're going to hover over the navbar, copy it, and go to our navbar right here, and give it the background color of that color. And as you can see, we now have a nice dark navbar, just like the Discord page. We are going to do the same for the unclaimed account here. Then we will have the top left section, and actually the top left section is the same as the top middle and the right section, I think. So if we hover over here, we see that we have 3, 4, 2, 3, 5. No, it's a different color. No, it's the same color actually. This is 2F3136, 2F3136, yes. And this is also 2F3136. So top left, left main, and right main and right bottom all have the same color. Open up our home.css, top left with this color, Then we had the left main, or the main left, which will be also this color. Then we have the main right and the bottom right. So right here we have main right, background color this, and bottom right, which will also be background color this. Let's refresh the page, and as you can see, we now have the correct background color on those elements. Next up, we have the main section from the top and the right section, and that should be the same as the main section right here. So we can copy over this, top main, so top right will be the same, and it is actually a background color, like so. Nice, and we also want to do the same for the main section, like so, and then the main bottom section as well. And as you can see, we only have one section left to go, which is the bottom left row. Let's take the color picker tool again, hover right here, copy, paste it inside of here, save it up, refresh the page, and we have the same colors as the Discord UI. Nice. Now that we have the same colors, we actually want to make the text a little bit lighter so we can see it. We can just easily remove the background color right here, and we can say color white, for a white text color, like so. Next up, we're actually going to work on the responsiveness of the website. So if we open up our inspector right here, and right here on the top right we have a responsive design mode, we click it and we get this little view. What we can do inside of here is we can drag this corner so we can make the screen larger or smaller. And as you already notice, is when we make it larger, the main section is growing larger as well, and the right and the left sections stay the same. If we go smaller, the main section gets also smaller until it's too small, and then it just starts shrinking the right section, and then it just starts, well, it's not really that readable anymore. This is how our design is reacting. Let's look at the design from the Discord UI page. Let's open up the responsive design here as well, and let's make it a little bit bigger. As you can see, we now have the normal page. We have the navbar, unclaimed account, top left main right, main left main right, and the bottom left bottom main and bottom right. If we make it smaller, we will see that the right section, as you can see, the main right and the bottom right are disappearing. They are just gone. So if we go smaller, we see that the main section has a lot more space because the right section is gone. If we look to the value right here, we see that when we hit 1200, the right section disappears. If we make this 1200, we see that the right section is gone. If we hit 1201, we see that the right section is back. So we now have a breaking point. Let's write it down right here. Breaking point is 1200 pixels. When we are over 1200, we want to display the right section larger than 1200. Display right, else don't display right. So when we are over 1200 pixels, we want to display the right section. If we are below 1200 pixels or at 1200 pixels, we don't want to display it anymore. There is two ways we can do this. We can do this using TSX, and we can do this using CSS. The difference between TSX and CSS is that when we use TSX, we can actually remove the element from the DOM tree. When we use CSS, we cannot alter the DOM tree, so we cannot remove the element. What we can do is we can set the display to none, so the element is not visible anymore, but still in the DOM tree. So the difference between doing it in our TSX and CSS is that when we use TSX, which is the file we have right here, we can actually remove the whole element from the page. Using CSS, we cannot remove the element, still there, but we can just make it invisible. We are going to use CSS for this. Let's save this up, open up our home.css. Let's see how to write a media query. Let's open up the site right here, and as you can see right here, we can write it like this. We start with @media only green and then we want to write the size or the breakpoint when we want to apply the query. So right here they use a breakpoint of 600 pixels and they say when the browser window is 600 pixels wide or less. If we apply this to our application, we can say when the browser window is 1200 pixels wide or less. So let's say max width 1200 pixels. So this code, the code inside of here will execute when the browser is 1200 pixels or smaller. Let's write .homepage. And right here we want to copy over our template areas like so. And we actually want to change one thing, and that is that we don't want to render the main right section. Let's grab our application right here, the main right section right here, and the bottom right section right here. So we remove main right and replace it with main, because if we look at the Discord UI, we see that the main section is now covering the main right section. Same goes for the bottom right section. We remove the bottom right and we just replace it with bottom main. Let's save it up and see what happens. By the way, let's comment this out for now. One thing you can do to really easily check if your media query is being applied or not, we can just alter something which is really easily visible. For example, the height of the page. As you can see, I've entered a height of 50 view height and the page now only has a height of 50 view height. If we go to 1200 pixels, we see that it is still 50 view height. If we go over it, we see that it is taking up all of the space because this is not being applied anymore. So now that we know that this is working, we actually want to remove the height and we want to apply this grid template areas line. Let's save it up, refresh the page, and as you can see, right now we have our main right and bottom right section still appearing. Let's go down to 1200 pixels, and you can see that the main right and the bottom right section are disappearing, but they are appearing right here in the bottom right section, and we have this really clumsy layout with a white background color as well, and the main section right here is looking really small. How do we fix this? We still need to remove the elements, or well, not remove, because that is what we do when we alter our JSX. We want to hide the elements from the page. We can say home page and then the main right, and let's give it a display of none, like so. And let's do the same for the bottom right. Home page, bottom right, display of none. Let's save it up, and as you can see, the elements are now not being displayed anymore, and the layout, which we have right here, is now responsive. If we make the layout a little bit larger, we see that the right section is appearing yet again. If we make it smaller, we see that it is disappearing. As you can also see, the top right section is always staying in place. That's correct, because the top section of the right section, a little bit complicated, but the top section of the right section always has to be there. If we open up the Discord page, this is the top right section. It's visible right now. It's also visible when we have the right and the bottom side. So right now we have a responsive website just like the Discord UI, and we can actually start working on filling the website with content. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you could follow along. Leave a like, comment down below, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!